So let's bring in the tremendous Charley Steiner. Charley, thanks for taking some time today. How are you, sir?
I am spectacular. Well, that might be overstating it. I'm okay.
Well, Brian Burwell's telling tales that go back a long, long time.
We were children together.
Together in New Jersey, yes.
Yes, we were working, he was working for and I was working around the Donald at the time, Donald Trump.
He was the boy builder
at
the time. He was a Donald and not the Donald.
Well, Charley, the reason we wanted to talk to you today, we're kind of interested in, we had Bob Costas on a week or so ago, and he told a fascinating story about working the night of the O.J. chase, and you were working as well at ESPN. Tell us your recollections.
Well, all of a sudden, this stuff begins to happen. And we are in Bristol, Connecticut. Bristol, Connecticut is 2 hours from New York, 2 hours from Boston, which means it's an hour too far from anywhere. So there we are. This now white Ford Bronco chase is about to begin, and we are 1,000,000 miles from the scene, and there was a stationary camera in the newsroom, which in those days was rather revolutionary. And I am sitting in front of a camera in Bristol, Connecticut, watching this white Ford Bronco. It wasn't a chase, it was a parade. And here I am, now on the air for God knows how long, talking about a white Ford Bronco. Not exactly even hot pursuit by the police. It was a parade, for goodness sakes. And I didn't know the 5 from the 405 to the 10 to the 110 in those days terribly well. And I am now vamping for God knows how long about this chase. There's almost only so many things you can say about a white Ford Bronco going 10 miles an hour. But somehow we did. And then all of a sudden, he arrives, thank God, at his place, and the story finally unfolded. Now, fast forward 20 years. I live 2 doors down from where Nicole had a very bad night.
Wow.
I truly do. About 10 years ago, when I moved to Los Angeles, I was house hunting. And a friend of mine said, all right, I'm going to look at stuff, and then when we get down to the final 4, come look with me. And we didn't see anything that was especially interesting. Then she said, but there's one that may be a little weird, but let's go see it anyway. So we pull up on Bundy. And now all of a sudden I see the brick walkway.
Uh-oh.
And the only thing at that point that's missing is, like, the body outline.
Oh.
So we go in, and I figure, you only live once. Let's go inside. And again, this is now 10 years after the fact. And the real estate woman is selling as hard as she can. And I put my 2 hands on my shoulders, and, man, we have to take a 20 here. and I said, I've got 4 reasons why I can't buy this place. 1, I can't get past the weirdness factor. 2, I don't believe in haunted houses, but if there was one, this is a prime candidate. 3, if it ever got out that the Dodger announcer now lives in Nicole Brown's place, that's really weird. And then 4, everybody would know where I live. So this is just not going to happen. But she said there's a house about 3 doors down. The escrow account fell through, and so I'm in the neighborhood. But to think back on all of that, and then of course this day, the 17th, all the sporting events that were going on, and Bob was doing the basketball, and I was anchoring all of this stuff. They did a wonderful 30 for 30 show on this. And I happened to watch it the other night just because, once every 20 years, whatever. And now I'm watching my neighborhood on television. So, yeah, this day is, as I'm now finally ending the first question. Jeez, I feel like Jim Tracy. A never-ending answer. It's a lot bizarre. It's a wonderful neighborhood. And then, obviously there was all the social significance involved, but It was 20 years ago today. I will not ever forget.
And it's so funny because I must have come out there about 6 or 7 years ago, and I brought a TV crew, and we interviewed you, and we're all doing the same thing. We're like, this neighborhood looks real familiar. And we walk up and we went, hey, Charlie. And before we could even get it's three doors down. I almost bought the place. Come in, I'll tell you the story.
So you've heard that nonsense before.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, when he had his trouble there in Nevada, the crews would come around and people come up and say, Nicole live here? And inevitably the response was, not anymore.
Oh.
Well, you know, let me...
It's still too soon.
Still too soon. Hey, Charley Steiner with us, voice of the Dodgers, radio voice of the Dodgers. Charlie, tell me, and you mentioned the weirdness factor. It was such a ghastly thing when you went up the walk. Did you get chills? I mean, how weird? I mean, really weird was that?
It was that haunted house vibe.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. But I figured, all right, I've gone this far. Let's go inside and see what it looks like.
Yeah, you might as well go ahead. Yeah.
Right. I've come this far. And so it was more like going to a museum. And so we went in, and it was a lovely place. So, people had lived in it. Now they were trying to sell it.
Yeah.
But it was a big, lovely place, and it is strange because people know Bundy, they know Gretna Green, they know Barrington, and it's like, this is my neighborhood now, for goodness sake.
And Charlie, you mentioned it earlier about that 30 for 30, the June 17th, 1994 one, and kind of the events that were also going on that day that kind of are overshadowed because of the Bronco chase. Do you remember, kind of how you were preparing for that day with all those other events going on and then having this being dropped in your lap?
On that day, really wasn't doing much else. As my recollection is that you're on O.J. Good luck. Gee, terrific. And that was it. And again, we did lead-ins for the Knicks and Rockets, and I think the Rangers had their victory parade. Mm-hmm. Arnold Palmer in the last U.S. Open. But yeah, OJ was my baby that day.
I want to get back to the house again. Mm-hmm. Have you met the neighbor who lives there now, or how many neighbors have lived there since you moved in? And is it in fact haunted?
No, and I don't know.
Okay.
It really is a nice neighborhood. That's the thing. So it's so out of... And Mezzaluna, which was the restaurant, is now a coffee joint.
Huh.
We were discussing...
What else?
Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
No, I was going to say, you come to the neighborhood. We'll put you on one of those Skyline buses.
They actually changed the address, too.
Oh, yeah. To throw off the would-be sleuths, they changed the housing address by 2 digits.
Yeah. I don't think it fooled anybody.
Nah. If it did, then they're dumber than I thought.
We were discussing earlier this hour, Charlie, what if social media, Twitter, Facebook, and that were around on that day and stuff was going on, how coverage would have been different because of that factor, and also, I guess, kind of twofold, how coverage of certain things have changed because of the events involving that trial and the Bronco chase itself.
Sure. I mean, one of the things I noticed, again, in watching the documentary the other night, how many hundreds, if not thousands of people started to suddenly line the freeway, and line the street. And this is just watching it on television. If you had social media now, that back then, it would have been even more chaotic than it turned out to be. Yeah, the social media thing has just totally changed everything, and Burwell and I are too old to relate to it.
I know, and the weird thing, you got to figure, OJ would have had a Twitter account.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, he would have had a Twitter account. He had a cell phone.
Al Collins' handle was, "You know who I am."
Yeah,
right. Yeah. The tragedy is that 2 people were brutally murdered.
Yes.
But there is now some separation of 20 years.
Right.
But the thing was so damn bizarre from beginning to end. And again, just watching the people run, it was like a marathon running from Nicole's place to OJ's place, following the police, following the TV vans, and following the helicopters. It was whatever June 17th, 1994 was all about, was encapsulated into that day and that event.
And I think, Charlie, I forgot about this until a few days ago when I was going back and watching some stuff. And you talk about the weirdness, the surrealness of the event. It kind of capped it off later that night when, after the NBA game happened and in the postgame, Pat Riley's asked the question by a reporter, do you think OJ would have made it if he would have cut left? And then everyone's like, well, get him out of here, get him out of here. And Pat Riley's looking around like, what's going on here? I mean, that kind of, I think, is a microcosm of that day, just how it all ended.
What? You know, there's always some dopey reporter in those big press conferences. Where was it? The French Open a couple of weeks back. You're always going to get one. And you just say, you know, don't embarrass our industry like this. We can do it ourselves. We don't need help from a bobo like you.
Hey, before we let you go, Charlie, since we have you, I'm a closet Dodgers fan, and I've felt that all in the off season, that this coming year would be, if the Dodgers can survive the drama that's going to develop, that they will survive and they'll be very, very good. Puig and all the stuff that he's apparently gone through and people are now aware of, and he just keeps performing. While, you know, what's left with Matt Kemp, and he's a left fielder, and the other guy, Crawford's hurt again, and all those other things. But the one guy that maybe has the most drama in his life is the one that's really performing.
Oh, I tell you what, Yasiel Puig may be the most talented baseball player. Every prerequisite baseball talent that you need: speed, throwing arm power, you know, the ability to hit a baseball, and all of that. He may have more pure talent than anybody I've ever seen covering the game. You know, I grew up, and as a teenager, I watched Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle, and I knew they were great players, but certainly at the age of 15, 16, 17, 18, didn't have whatever passes for a discerning eye that I might have now. Having said that, Puig has everything. Now, if he can keep himself together, and signs are that he can, and the simultaneous release of those 2 magazine pieces about his escape and his life turned out to be a great liberating experience for him, because finally the story was told and he didn't have to tell it. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I mean, he's got just unbelievable skill, has amazing charisma. And it may sound like a homer thing to say, but I don't know at this day that there is a bigger star in baseball. Mm-hmm. Are there better players? Perhaps. But in terms of star quality and all of his idiosyncratic behaviors, plus in his ability to play the game, I think he's the biggest star in the game.
On that note, Charlie, we really appreciate your time and your recollections. Thank you so much, and good luck to the Dodgers, and hopefully we'll talk again as the summer goes on.
Look forward to it. Hey, Burwell?
Yes, sir.
Next time we're in St. Louis, we got to have something to eat, okay?
Yes, sir, absolutely. It's on you, actually. You kept the Express report. All right.
Oh, I feel better already.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
Bye, Charlie.
See you.
Charley Steiner with the Dodgers now. You know him for many years with ESPN, and he's done so many great things.
Still my favorite ESPN SportsCenter promo of all time.
Follow me to
freedom one is still
I'll tell you a true story about this. He talks about how every time somebody brings that up, it's either follow me to freedom, or my favorite is when he punched out the Syracuse Orange.
Right.
He goes, I said that to him, and he just kind of shrugs his shoulders, and he just slumps down, and he goes, been in this business for a long time, done quality work, won awards, and this is what everybody wants me for. Follow me to freedom.
He's in the National Radio Hall of Fame.
And hiding from Evander Holyfield. Steiner, where are you? Come and get your whipping. Come and get your whipping. And he's hiding underneath the table. He goes, those are the three things that I'm most known for.
But part of it is because Charlie has an infectious laugh and energy about him, I think, is why he gets put in some of those roles.
Well, and he's one of those guys you immediately like.
Yes,
exactly. Where are you? Come and get your whipping.
You appreciate his talent, and he's got that likability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're late for a break. We'll be back on the home stretch in a moment. No?
Yes.
Right?
Go.
Yes.